Hey, 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 everybody. Live from Denver, it's Friday night. Let's make sure that all is well in our little sound world here. Oh, we're all good. Looking good, sounding good. Excellent. Hey, everybody. What a week, huh?
It's been a wild time.
God. Woo! Yeah. So as you can see, I am joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
Now, I also want you guys to know, just at the start and top of the event here, of the hour, that I don't know that I would call myself jet lagged, because I don't think that's actually I don't think that's the right term to use. I don't know what the right term to use is for the discombobulation of what you might call minor travel experiences. You know, we have done international flights a couple times, flying over to UK, flying to Barcelona. I've flown to Australia and back. I've flown to Hawaii more than a couple times. And Vancouver wasn't really that big of a difference of a flight than, you know, inside the U.S. And I've flown around inside the U.S. a lot. And this is all flying. And yeah, not exactly car lag, because this is me. Okay, so what this is me taking 3 days to go do an hour of expert witness testimony in another state. And I'm not going to get into any of the specifics of what the case was about or anything, other than to say it was a continuation of what I had done earlier. I think I mentioned before. I'm not violating anything to say it was not Scientology related or directly cult related as such, but it was coercion related testimony having to do with cyber stalking and harassment. So, Travelocity. There's a good, Stuart. That's a great, yes, thank you. I am experiencing Travelocity. So you just that kind of, you know, you're only an hour or two out of your time zone, but you're in a weird place or a strange place, not weird, but strange or different. And you gotta be put up in a hotel, and then you got that, and then you got to get up and go do your thing and be 100% on, and then we're done, and then it's back. Then it's hanging around a lot until your airplane, until your flight goes the next day, and then going. And that was the experience of the last 3 days. And I get very little else done while I'm doing that, so it always feels a little disorienting. That might be the word. Because I'm not
that's a good word.
Sitting focused, doing my work, answering my emails. I don't have a laptop where I'm sitting there doing the remote work thing out of the hotel. I don't know. I've just never, I haven't done anything like that, in a long time. Anyway, just rambling here, but I'm just letting you guys know it's been a few days. And so I just landed a couple hours ago back in Denver here. Mel picked me up, and here we are. And I insisted that we do the show.
And it was crazy at the airport. All of the garages were full. All of the garages.
We were trying to find out what's going on in Denver this weekend. We can't figure it out. There's a laundry list of events, but none of them are huge. So we're confused as to why all these people. I don't know if it has
to go back to that other travel flop that happened, but
maybe, yeah, it might have something to do with all the what was that? The CrowdStrike software that imploded this week and destroyed the airline industry for a couple days because of a bad Windows update. That was fascinating to watch. We always say hi to Lucifer when we drive past at the airport. Absolutely, Stuart. Anyway, it might have been a result of that. But that, I found out, somebody asked me about that thing, the CrowdStrike downing, of that, I think on the Q&A show. And I kind of went on a little rant about, how people don't understand how fragile our infrastructure is. And by that, I meant the logistical matters, the production matters, the distribution matters of every level of our society. That's what I kind of meant by that. I wasn't talking about roads as such. Like infrastructure, usually it's roads, train tracks, all that kind of. That wasn't really what I was referring to in my Q&A. But just this idea that certain aspects of our society that we all rely on to keep working are held together with some sticky tape and Band-Aids. And it's really quite...
Yeah. I mean, if the entire structure of the internet went down, that would be really bad, like, for the whole planet.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I'm Windows update. I think it was the CrowdStrike software update, right? Did I get there? You're right. It wasn't a Windows update, but it was some kind of change to their software. I watched one video about it where a technical guy kind of explained the difference between kernel mode and user mode, and how when you have a breakdown like this, it's because the software is executing in such a way that it's directly addressing the kernel, and if it fails, it shutdown is the only resolvable way of dealing with it, and that's what happened because of this update, and so all these things crashed. That's as much expertise as I have about all of that. Why is our infrastructure connected to the internet? Is that necessary? It is a pro and a con.
Correct.
Right? You get added additional routes of communication, let's say, that allow you to send communications of all kinds using the internet infrastructure. But because the internet is, in many, many ways publicly accessible or hackable or whatever, you open yourself up to those cons, right, of being perhaps open to attack or hacking or something like that. So that's pros and cons, always pros and cons. I got a bunch of little Post-it notes here of stuff I just jotted down that I'm going to share with you guys tonight. In lineup with the title of our show. But before we get into those things, what is our quote, baby?
One moment, please.
Yes.
All right.
She's always so good at this.
Hope is not the conviction that something will turn out well, but the certainty that something makes sense regardless of how it turns out. And that's, I'm going to say this all kinds of wrong, but Václav Havel.
And what did you tell me? How does that make sense to you? Because that's an interesting quote, that one.
I was thinking it's like you hope something will happen, but there's a chance it won't. But it makes sense because you're like, I could actually see that happening rather than, oh, that's definitely not going to happen. And that feels negative to me. And I don't think that's a good thing, Right.
This might go along the line of something parallel or similar. It's not the same thing, but maybe similar to something Hubbard talked about, where certainty. There's that certainty is understanding, and certainty is all of these wonderful things. But I think maybe that might be more in alignment with it's more of certainty is not understanding or solidness or anything like that. But it's more of the knowledge is guiding you not towards certainty, but just towards knowledge, right? Just towards
the idea, the hope that this is, it's saying hope is saying this is a possibility.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
This is a very good possibility.
Well, that certainly aligns with a lot of my thinking right now, which is why I was so keen to go on air tonight. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Things that make you go, Let's think about this one. That was a good one. And also along the same lines of things that will make you feel good, we have our Snuggles Not Struggles cam for you this week. And check this guy out. I missed him so much over the last 3 days.
Missed you.
Oh. And there he is in your chair, I think.
Yeah, my
right?
chair.
Yeah, and he's just chilling there. And Mr. Chili.
Stealing my chair like always.
That's right. He does that. He sits in our thrones. Whenever we're not there, he's always, I assume, the Iron Throne. Well, look at him just chilling there. He's just been adorable since I've been home today. Oh, that's right. Every time you click, Benson gets a treat. That's right.
Yes. Click.
There you go.
So many treats that he's gained 2 pounds.
Yes, exactly. We took him to the vet. That's right. And he has gained a little bit of weight. So we'll have to see. Oh, he is so chill right there. He is just totally chilling. Our little bundle of furry joy. That's him. All right. Let's move on from that, shall we? Now that we've given you a little bit of our furry little joy child there. Mm-hmm. Okay, so just quick, since Anthony's asking, any thoughts on who you want Kamala to pick as running mate? What are your thoughts on that?
I guess I kind of like Buttigieg. I do. Whitmer would be cool, a double female team there, female president and vice president. That might be kind of cool. Mm-hmm. I don't know a lot about a lot of the other ones. So I can't really say whether or not they'd be someone I'd be behind or not. I need to learn more.
The only other one that I feel is a good-natured, stable, honest, and man with integrity that I don't know precisely what his policy positions have been or are, because that's not in my state. But Mark something Kelly, I think. Anyway, it's the astronaut guy.
Oh, that guy. Okay.
Yeah, I really like him. I think he's got a strong backbone, and I know he's in the short list as well. So I guess we'll have to see what happens.
Over the next few days, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I think Buttigieg is the one who experientially makes sense to me. But at the same time, the other guy there, I'm so embarrassed that I'm like trying to endorse a guy whose name I'm forgetting. That's really
your memory
not
is
great.
Just like,
nah,
not right now.
Mark Kelly, that's it. I knew it was Kelly something. Yes, that guy. I just find him instantly likable. Let me put it that way. And since it's just kind of first impressions is all I've got with him, because I've never lived under his leadership or direction or influence. I don't know what else to say about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fluffy, and that's, of course, J.D. Vance is coming up with, let's just say there's a lot of reasons to not necessarily like that guy. And I don't want to go on a political soapbox here today totally regarding the personalities involved in our presidential election. So I'm not going to do that rant today, but I think you guys know how I feel about that kind of stuff anyway. I'm never shy about that. Yeah, exactly, right? How can you not like an astronaut?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, come on. Exactly. And he's married to Gabby Giffords. I mean, yeah, the guy there's just nothing to not like about him as far as I can tell. But like I said, let's move past that. What I wanted to do first is talk about this title tonight. Okay, and then I'll get into some other stuff. I think you guys have seen over the last 3-4 weeks or so me being a little more open and transparent about some of my darker, deeper feelings about what's been going on lately in our country and the source of some of what I consider to be major cultural aberrations in our society. Or I use the word aberrations. Problems. People who've got some very serious issues and they want to inflict those issues on the rest of us. I'm talking about the evangelicals, the Christian nationalists, the real hardcore right-wing extremists, right? There's been a lot of uncomfortableness and fear and loathing in this household, in my life, in my head, and in the conversations I've had with many of my friends and cohorts and people I know about things, the air, the environment, how things feel. How does it feel to be in America these days?
Right.
Right? It feels fucking tense. It feels like intense. It feels somewhat like we're bordering on a dangerous, we're walking into a kind of slow walking into this very dangerous place. And that's been my point of view. And I've tried to share my point of view with others without trying to be a fearmonger. I've been afraid without wanting to spread, animosity and terror and fear and loathing. I feel that in some ways my mood or my thinking has been so negatively driven because of what I know and think and feel and see that I've been kind of, not as positive as I used to be about certain things because I haven't felt very positive about things. And And then, you know, the more you learn about personal stuff, you know, that I've shared with you guys, that we've shared about mental conditions and stuff, ADHD, right? I'm not talking about psychopathy, but you know, like I think some people wonder if I suffer from psychopathy, but I'm not one of them. My problems are bad enough, right? ADHD and anxiety and depression and all this other crap, right? So, you know, the more real that becomes, those things become, and the more like kind of part of your life, and you start medicating and working on it, it becomes a bit more prominent in your life. You start thinking about those things more. And then I guess, you know, relationships and what you can say and can't say to people that you like or love or know, family, friends, you know, all the stuff that all of us, I think, have been running into since really the where things really became nuclear, which I think was 2015, 2016, right, with Trump. Yeah. I think that's where things just like, and then just COVID happened.
Ratcheted up, and COVID was nuts.
On top of all this political craziness and personality divisiveness, we then have a world event happen on par with a world war, which we still haven't recovered from, you know, financially, economic, job-wise, all of it, right?
Nope. And there's still COVID.
Yeah, well, there is still COVID. I mean, well, that's going to be COVID for the rest of our lives, but at least
it's
you know,
still out there enough to be a little concerned about, you know? So it's like...
Exactly. I love this. If the U.S. were a roller coaster, there would be a bunch of extraneous bolts all over the ground. Yeah, you got it, right? Being stuck at home with only your computer to talk to was bad for us.
Yes.
No question about it. And the only real point of division now is the historical revisionism of, you know, well, we had a choice when we didn't have a choice. Right. And when we, you know, were arguing about our choices, but, you know, we were faced with perhaps dying if you made the wrong choices or exposing others to, you know, to sickness or illness or death, right? I mean, this became a real moral dilemma for so many people, and the stress and arguing of over that, and the moral outrage on both sides to how dare you take away my independence versus how dare you endanger put me at risk, exactly, endanger my family, my friends, my people, me. How dare you, right? Like in the clash of these two things, man, it was just crazy. That was like a world war in so many ways. It happened all over the world. It didn't just happen here. So the stress levels just kept going up and up and up and up and up. And now, you know, then an insurrection happened, then an actual attempt. And you know, you can agree or disagree with me about this. You know, it doesn't really matter to me. I feel very strongly that I saw what I saw on video, and I heard what I heard, and I watched what I watched.
Happening live on the news. Yeah.
Right. We watched an attempted coup. We watched it. And, you know, and people attempt to rewrite that history, reframe it, say it was something else. You know, it wasn't. It was a coordinated conspiratorial activity to deny our elective process and stop the peaceful transfer of power. And that is unacceptable. And yet a bunch of Americans accepted it. And that caused the stress levels to go up even higher amongst those of us watching that, thinking, am I living in the twilight zone now? Am I, what world am I living in? Because this isn't the one that I thought I was going to grow up into. Right. I didn't think we dealt with things this way. I didn't think our country was this off the rails. I didn't realize there were this many people who could be so easily manipulated into a path of pure destruction while telling themselves that they are patriots fighting for freedom. It is the most backwards world thing you could imagine. Yeah. And I, you know, and we were all watching this in terror and awe and shock. Like, what is going on here? And then, you know, the media coverage and the various other things and the court cases and the SCOTUS decisions and, you know, Roe v. Wade and just a lot of things happening to drive the temperature up, as we all know. So finally, we come to the other side of this. Finally. And I'm starting to feel different. And it's amazing to me how quickly it's happening. But it really shouldn't be, if I think about it. And that's what I wanted to talk about tonight, is hope. the return of hope, the return of an idea of a future that we want to be part of, that we want to be in, that we could maybe have a voice and influence and say in, a future that is better for us, not worse. Now, there's a lot of challenges on the table right now when you look at media reports and the world and the big, and things that are going on. But how do I know that 1/6 was coordinated? Because people were prosecuted for coordinating it, bud. Go check out the news, man. I mean, people are in jail right now because of their activities.
There was lots of evidence on their social media.
Oh my God, it's all over the place. It's not hard to find. It was a coordinated conspiracy from the highest levels. It's all been broken down already. And the court cases haven't even all been allowed to run their course because Trump gets a pass on everything. But it's all out there. The data's there. It's not even a controversial statement. I'm telling you, it's really not. It's really not.
No.
And if you think it is, please go do some research and check it out. Okay.
Yes, please.
So anyway, so where I was trying to go with all that, of course, is that, we have had a lot of reasons to have the hope sort of sucked out of us for years and years now. It's been years that this has been going on, almost 10, right? 8 or 9 years. And that's a long time. And knowing what I know about, fight or flight and mental fatigue and sort of overexposure to things and what that does to us and how that puts a person that is the foundation of what PTSD is it's that overwhelmed nervous system and brain system that is just gets exhausted trying to deal with the overload. This is actually not PTSD. This is complex PTSD. Sorry. So this is something that a lot of people have, a greater or lesser amount of now because of all these events I just was laying out, right? And all the stress of it. So we have a bit of a shell shock, you could say. They used to call it that, shell shock. When people came back from war and they were just completely like, I ain't talking about it, we're not going there, and I want to put all that behind me and having nightmares for the rest of their life.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes worse, sometimes not being able to function or reintegrate into society after that situation. Even to the point of becoming even dangerous or suicidal or. And all of that stems from this concept or this disorder we call, not disorder, but the condition that we call complex PTSD. Yeah, disorder. Yeah, of course.
A lot of the people that went to Iraq and Afghanistan that are back now or have been back for a while. I mean, it's a whole generation of mostly elder millennials and young Gen X that were fighting that war. So now there's a whole generation of people that are like,
yeah, always. But I think what I'm trying to say is that we all feel shell-shocked a bit.
Yeah,
right? By recent events. And so when you're living through that, it feels hellacious. It's not entirely, my experience of this, having been in a cult full-time, is that it's really stressful, right? And I've never wanted that for everybody. I've always wanted that to not happen, and yet that's exactly what did. Hope requires us to also be eternally vigilant. I'd say freedom requires us.
Yeah,
that's the price of freedom, right?
Yeah.
Constant alertness, constant willingness to fight back. It's one of the few things Hubbard said that I will to this day agree with, because he didn't say it. He rephrased it from something that I think George Washington said, if I remember right. Anyway, but hope, freedom, promise, a future that matters. This is something that is now becoming a vision on the left, on the political left. And I'm in the political left. So is Mel.
Yes.
And this week we saw, Biden do one thing that Donald Trump could never, ever, and please know this is true, right? I'm not even so this is not even opinion based. I believe this is absolutely true. That it is inconceivable to somebody like Donald Trump to give up power.
Right.
To not push and push and push and take for as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden did something this week that was extraordinary in American politics, is he stepped down. And he allowed literally the next generations to come up. And I am here for it in so many ways that I didn't even know. And so many hopeful things are happening now as a result of this. So many people are coming together and coalescing on, certainly in the digital world. In the social media world right now, things are ablaze with hope and with happiness and with a future vision of an America that is not The Handmaid's Tale.
Right.
I mean, let's just call it what it is, right? The Christian nationalists want The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at what's in Project 2025, that's what it is.
Exactly. It is Gilead. Go read it. Don't take my word for it. Mm-hmm. Go read it. Go look at the summaries of it. Go read the Wikipedia page article on it. We talked about it here in some detail. Check it out for yourself, please. This is not a divorced reality from what the Trump administration wants. This is not a fringe group on the side who just happens to be making a lot of noise. This is core to the Trump 47 agenda, all of it. It revolves around these values that come straight out of the Stone Age. So we don't want that, right? And let me be clear, Red Pill, that no, there wasn't hope. And that's why so many people on the left, when Biden was running, we were struggling to find hope. I mean, just again, let's just be honest, right? We were desperate because there was no other choice.
Yeah.
And the choice we had sucked. And everybody said it. Everybody knew it. We talked to each other about it, but we all collectively shrugged because what power do we have to change it? We have none.
Right.
Which is why it's so monumental and really needs to be acknowledged that Joe Biden, the man, stepped down. I'm telling you, this is unheard of. People don't do this.
People will stay in politics until they die.
Yeah, exactly.
Before they'll step down.
Exactly. But it speaks so much volume to character that he would do that. It really does. I'm telling you, in history, it is unprecedented, right? It's very, very unusual for rulers to do what he did this week, and to pave the way for the first American president who is a black woman.
Right.
Now, we don't know that she's going to get the nomination yet, obviously, but, the delegates have apparently signaled their, approval or whatever, and we'll see what happens, right?
I mean, who else are they going to do at this point, I
mean, really, but the resurgence that we're seeing now is the hope that I'm talking about. And I think somebody mentioned, the money. There was something with money, right?
Yeah,
there's a lot of money coming in right now. Yeah. Did you guys hear about the Zoom call? There's been, I don't know if it's still going right this minute. As of this morning, it was. There's this Zoom call, white women for Kamala. I think I'm saying that Kamala. White women for Kamala. 100,000 people have been on the Zoom call, rotating through, and they've been donating money. I think Pink showed up, I read this morning, and probably some other celebrities. But it's this big organic thing that's just happening, and that's just one sideline thing, right? But it's just interesting. It's like 100,000 people have been cycling through these, this, let's go white women for Kamala. There have been multiple Zoom calls. Cool. Excellent. So there's even more than what I'm hearing about. I've been following all this stuff on social media, basically via Twitter, and my news feeds, over the last few days. That's what I have been keeping up on since I've had all this time on my hands. So, so I think this is going to be, the groundswell will be awesome. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, is I think we are seeing a resurgence right now that we have not seen since Obama. The same kind of energy is happening right now, right? And I am so hopeful that this continues, that this becomes the juggernaut we need it to be, to overwhelm and destroy this extreme radical nonsense that's coming out of the extreme right. And I know that I sound just like people on the right who talk this same way about the left. And it drives me crazy that that is true. It drives me absolutely nuts because I'm not the same as Tim Pool or Ben Shapiro or Hannity or the Fox News course, opinion commentators. I'm not any of those guys. I don't talk out of the same knowledge base they do, but I still end up sounding like this extremist guy. So I loved the fact that this week, I think it was yesterday or the day before, the Minnesota governor who just passed a bill for free lunch for every kid, no questions asked.
That's amazing.
Right? Breakfast and lunch, period, no questions asked. That's a done deal in Minnesota, apparently. And he was quoted as saying something around the lines of, yeah, the fascism just kind of goes over people's heads. The authoritarianism, yeah, they just don't, it doesn't register with people. It should, but it doesn't. So what does? If you just go, these people are really weird and they have very strange ideas. And that communicates somehow better. Because not everybody on the right is weird and not everybody on the right has weird ideas or is an oddball.
It's true.
They're not. Most of them are really wonderful people. I just rubbed elbows with a bunch of them. They're nice folks. And their minds are not centered around all of this all the time. Most people aren't thinking about this crap all the time. I just happen to hyper focus on it for periods of time because I'm loony. So right? So there's a lot of sane, rational people who are not hyper focused and hyper extreme over on the right, and I love those people, right? I got nothing against any of that. I'm more middle left as far as the American spectrum goes, right? I think we both are, but the extremists, oh my God, right? And the people who want to rile people up to violence and this open talk of civil war and how concerned all of us were about that. This has just been, it got really, really down to a very low point. And I hope that at this point we might have hit bottom and maybe we can start going back up again as a country. I'm not just talking about left versus right now because I don't want it to continue to be the left versus right paradigm that dominates our national discourse. We need to move past that now. It's time for the drama to stop.
Compromise, right? And reach across the aisle and listen to each other. Exactly.
And I think that under sane, rational leadership that is not egging all of us on to click, watch the Twitter feed, watch the Trump social feed. We need leadership that leads, that doesn't act like a cult leader.
Right.
We are been so sucked into personalities for it. It is very analogous to me, and I might get in trouble for saying this, but it's been very analogous to me to the SPTV community meltdown that happened since last November, when it became all about personalities and all about drama and who did what to who, and let's rile each other up over all the moral outrages of what a victim we all are of each other, instead of fighting Scientology, which is what we're all here for. And it was just shocking to watch how quickly that happened and how fast the whole thing just went over a cliff. And it was, and people just ran out of this community, right? They didn't want to have anything to do with it. Out of the ex-Scientology world, because it was just so distasteful and horrible. Mm-hmm. And sides were being taken and insults were being lobbed, and I can't help but see that as a microcosm of the bigger divide. And now that appears to finally be running its course in the ex-Scientology world. We're not coming back together, and there isn't going to be any big kumbaya after this is all over. But at least the nastiness is dying down now, and people have finally had their fill of the awful. That's what I've seen. That's what I'm seeing in the community right now from a kind of,
distance,
lurking, poking in, kind of view is how I'm doing it. Right. I think I posted one comment on the Discord today, and the first time in months, I'm just not really present there a lot anymore. And it's been good for my mental health to be that way. But well, yeah, exactly. What's worse is how many ran toward the drama. That's the noise factor of that. Exactly, Leslie. That's the disheartening part. That's the part. Oh, I'm so glad you just wrote that, Leslie, because that's the part that causes people like me, for us, people who are trying to get the work done, to lose hope, to start despairing that the work means anything, that we mean anything, that I have any usefulness at all. Because look at all these people who won't stop insulting me and deriding me and calling me a fake and a this and a that. You start wondering what you're doing this for. You start wondering what it's all about, right? It really disperses and messes with your head in really significant ways when your world is being rewritten around you and you are not in a position to do much about it. And that's, I think, what I'm talking about here. So yeah, and I think that hope is now, I think it can start returning, and I think we can start getting back down to business and start doing the work that matters. The work that I've never stopped doing, that Leah's never stopped doing, that Mike has never stopped doing. Not one day on his blog has he missed, despite what he has been being put through lately with his medical treatments. The work's still getting done, just not by that crew, and now things are finally dying down, I hope. So maybe some work can get done. Yeah, I know insults are a part of life, but they don't have to be part of a healing trauma community that's just trying to get over being in a cult. It's not, I know it's a part of life, but it's not a productive part of our life. Let's put it that way. Okay. So some things I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know. What are you thinking about all this? I've been sitting here yapping at a mad rate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hopeful. I feel like, people are coming around, we were saying Kamala earlier, the people are coming around her. So that's very hopeful. People are energized. So I'm glad about that. I'm very excited to see who she's going to pick for her vice presidential candidate. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask what was on your mind on it. I wanted to address Bud123 asked a good question. How about Netanyahu's congressional speech?
Oh, yeah.
Why does most Congress support Israel no matter what it does in its war in Gaza? They don't. Let me tell you something I learned yesterday that was fascinating to me. Netanyahu is the prime minister, I believe, of Israel, and he came over and gave a speech to our Congress. And it appeared to be our full Congress. It wasn't. Apparently, 110 Congress people were not there. And they filled their seats with other people.
Oh my God, they seat filled.
Because they do that. That's what they do when people come and, do presentations
like the freaking
or whatever.
Oscars.
Yeah, exactly. They had seat fillers. There are a lot of United States senators, Congress people, who do not support Israel's moves in Gaza. And they have made their voices known in a lesser or greater degree. I navigate this very carefully because I do not look at this through a political lens or through a nationalist lens or through an American ally lens. I personally don't. I think what's happening in Israel is a human rights tragedy of epic proportions. And I think both sides are fully culpable for war crimes against the other. And it's been going on for decades. And this comes up as this political, hot potato and gets thrown around. And it's not our country. This is not our thing. We didn't. Anyway, it's a complicated situation.
Very.
You know? It's very complicated. But yes, diabolical is another good word for that, right? So, yeah, that's right. That's right. I saw that, Stuart. That's right. One of the senators had a sign, and she was there. And she had a little sign that said "war criminal" on it. So some of the protester senator Congress people were there. Anyway, point is, there's not as much support for that as you might think in our government, but it's a incredibly complicated and difficult situation for us because of national policies, because of allyship, because of the bigger picture of the Middle East, and because of the very large, Jewish population in our country and our responsibilities to them as our citizens. But there's an awful lot of Palestinians in this country
Correct.
too, and we
Yeah.
have responsibilities to them. And so, we're in a really tricky place where there really isn't any way to navigate this and come out ahead. There's no win-win here unless these people come to their senses and stop killing each other. And we can't make them do that. Yeah, it's a tough call.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, bud. And please, and carry on, International
Yeah.
Court of Justice, right? I want accountability and objective oversight, whenever we can get it on international and national problems like this. But we see how hard it is to tell sovereign nations what they can and can't do. It's not, you don't just because somebody's president of the United States doesn't mean everybody goes, oh, okay,
Yeah, that
yes,
they
sir,
listen
right
to
now,
them.
sir.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
If only,
Yeah, Israel is a sovereign nation. So, so they're going to do what they're going to do, and we're going to have to roll with it. And I hate it. I hate the whole mess. But like I said, I don't look at it through a political lens. That's why my comments about it are, probably pretty shallow compared to what I can speak to much more intelligently about, which is the human rights violations. So that's how I look at it. Okay. I wanted to share a couple things with you guys. One of the things that I had the displeasure of while I was in the courtroom testifying was to look at and be about 10 feet away from the narcissist that had kind of started the whole thing. And this was this predatory person who, obviously I'm not going to name, but who, not a good guy. And it was interesting to see this. This was a ringleader type, right, who had organized things on the internet in a real cyber stalky, harassy way, and had organized a group of people to do this. And to see this man sit in the courtroom, meek, mild, refusing to look at anybody, couldn't bear to take the slightest ounce of responsibility for any bit of his actions. Lied on the stand, by the way, which was interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting to watch that, to see it again in the wild. I think I commented last time I went out and did this on the people who were there, who were a couple of the harassers. And anyway, it was interesting to see it up close. But I thought to myself, narcissists thrive under unbalanced power dynamics. And that was the thing I wanted to point out is, I wonder how many, we talk about narcissists or malignant narcissists or these predatory type people, and it's probably better just to say predator. Power dynamics are all out of whack, and they're taking advantage of it. These are the kind of people who will amass power in some way and then use that to dominate and lord over other people around them. And they thrive in that environment. They thrive in creating that relationship with people. But when they're out of there, when it's a fish out of water situation and they're not the ones with power, it is so interesting to see how they become the opposite of that grandiose version of themselves, where they become this meek, mild, sort of propitiative, lying weasel-like version of themselves. I don't know that this is anything new or original in terms of human observation. It's, we see this in every movie. It's just, it's just interesting to see it in your face, to watch it, you know, in your face, and see that itself, that weaselly sort of thing, becomes its own level of manipulation and control. I'm not powerful. I'm not dominating. I'm not taking advantage of anybody. Look at how meek and mild and weak I am, right? Kind of thing, you know. And yes, they are always the victim. Darvo plays prominently in this, with how they've done things. So I don't know if you missed anything, Fluffy. I don't think so. I just went out and gave some testimony. That's all. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's a tough guy until prison becomes a potential outcome for them. Yes, you got it. That's exactly right. Okay, now this was also sort of riding on a little bit of what we were talking about before. And this has to do with expertise, okay? And I just wanted to kind of talk again about, you know, some of my frustrations over the last many months and years, and you definitely have heard it in my tone of voice and my manner, how frustrated I can get about knowing things about cults and predators and how they act, and then being, you know, refuted and insulted and lambasted and told I need to stay in my lane and shut up, and no, I'm only here to hear about cults. I'm not here to hear about politics, even though they're literally the same thing. You know, I get really worked up about that. And I thought expertise can isolate you. The expertise is a double-edged sword. This is what I was thinking about. I wanted to run this by you guys, see what you thought about this. Expertise in anything can be a double-edged sword, because it's a con. There's pros and cons, right? And one of the cons that is not obvious, especially when you're in it, is the way it biases you. Your expertise biases you. It gives you a lens to the world that allows you to see things because of what you know that other people don't see and don't know. But it also highlights that side of life. When I see, you know, when I look out at the world, I see things through a really authoritarian, culty, you know, sort of abnormal psychology view of the world. And that's a bias. That can become a bias if you sink into it too hard, which I've absolutely done, and I believe every expert can and does at one point or another. You start seeing it everywhere.
Sure.
And I've even said that, right? Cults are everywhere.
They are. Coercive control is everywhere.
That's right. And it is. But so is a lot of other good stuff that I might not necessarily be looking at because I'm so focused on this darker, negative side of behavior.
Right.
And I spend all this time talking about it and describing it to y'all and breaking it down and figuring it out and talking with people about recovering from it. So it fills my world with all this negativity. And that can't help but skew your vision towards the negative, towards, you know, your opinions of people and things, and the world becomes curved, you know, angled because of this. Stuart, go for it. The curse of knowledge. There you go. So, but it also gives you, but now on the other end, right? Expertise by definition gives you special insight others don't have and often won't even believe. And that's,
yeah, like it seems like you could really know something and then you explain it to someone, and instead of them being like, oh, really? I didn't know that. Oh, you know, it's like, oh, well, why are you telling me that?
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't know. They don't see it. You know, I don't know anything about insects. So I don't pay any attention to them. And if somebody wanted to sit down and talk to me about insects, I'd have a legit hard time listening to that. Because I'm not into insects. I don't like them. I don't hate them. I don't want them destroyed. I don't have any animosity towards them. Maybe, you know, when I say hate, I just mean I don't like getting stung or crawled on or, you know, that kind of thing. I'm just not into it. But if I was an expert on insects, I would be hyper aware of all the insects flying around in our yard and around in the summer and taking my dog for a walk. And every time we go outside, it'd be like insect. And I'd be filled with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to call myself an expert by any means, but because I have knowledge of how film works, especially like the plots and stuff, it's like I see things before other people do sometimes. I see the like puppet master doing the strings, you know? And so it's hard sometimes to talk to people that don't know that stuff and don't care about that stuff. Because I just want to watch a movie and have a good time. And I'm like, yeah, but...
Exactly. I know we all run into this, right? We all do. Because we all have our expertise. We have our jobs. We have the things we're interested in and learn about, or hobbies, or this or that, right?
Yeah.
And it's amazing, the variety of all of this. I mean, you really, you know, once you kind of come out of all the negativity, you just go, wow, look at all this wonderful variety. But it's really hard to get people to listen to you sometimes, especially, and when you know what you're talking about, it's really frustrating when people don't grant you that you know what you're talking about, right? Another thought. Here's another thing, another rando observation. Okay. Propaganda. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Check this out. Here's a script flip for you to consider. I have spent years talking about propaganda and manipulation and influence. We've read from Cialdini, we've broken it down, we've talked about thought reform and the 8 points of Lifton's model. You guys know about the BITE model. You know, we have all these things to describe propaganda, manipulation, the influence continuum or spectrum, right, that Hassan talks about. We got all this stuff. And we all look at it through a lens, talking about looking at things through a lens. Let me give you this, right? We all look at it through a biased lens. That individual human rights and our freedoms and our individual choices are senior to the state or the group or whatever, you know, whatever activity we might be a member of, right? We're all very cautious here and wary here of manipulators and predators and the influence and power that they can have, even domination that they can have over people. And we're rightfully wary of that. But how do you solve the problem of getting everybody on the same page? How do you solve that problem? What techniques?
Getting them on the right same page.
What techniques do you use to get people on the same page? Because we're naturally varietous, divergent, contrarian. Some of us are contrarian just to be contrarian, with no reason to be at all. We just are. We just start arguments just to start them. We're so different from one another as people, as individuals. And there's so much wonderness and wonderfulness in that. But at the same time, we got societies and civilizations and groups, and we need to be operating in unity, or at least in you know, without massive division, to get everybody going. And where I'm going with this, of course, is that the techniques of getting everybody on the same page are propaganda. That's how you do it. If you want to get everybody on the same page, you use propaganda. You emotionally manipulate them into it. You don't reason the people into that. Sometimes you can use some facts along with the emotional manipulation, and people will think they are rationally deciding on this thing. But emotional manipulation is how you really get past the fact level and get down into the person and how they feel about things. And that has, I don't know, I'll say 20 times, arbitrarily, 20 times more power than a fact is a feeling. If I feel something, I'll be dedicated to you for the rest of my life, right? If you tell me a fact, that's interesting. Oh, that's revelatory. Okay, that clarifies some things. But I don't now feel like I owe you my existence. It's emotional manipulation that creates that. And if you want to get everybody on the same page, that's how you do it. You use propaganda, manipulation techniques, all the stuff we've been talking about. It doesn't happen to be very good for individuals, but it is great to get a group on the same page, right? So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there as a little script flip, because again, what I'm really saying here, of course, is it's all a matter of degree, right? You can, how much propaganda is too much? Well, when people are, the line that gets crossed is always when it's opening the door to abuse, to damage, to harm, to violence, to the darker side of things. It's when things are going off the rails. That's when you've gone too far. But the same techniques that will drive people to war are what unite them, are what brings them together and helps people to create something amazing and positive. Context is everything with this. But isn't that interesting? It's not like there's some other body of knowledge that I'm aware of, I think, that will get that result. And that's what I find so interesting, because it's really breaking down the influence spectrum, but it's a funny thing to say. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to say is cultural revolution is waiting to happen if we can get the old guys out of the way. So, because I think that's what we're seeing right now. I think we're seeing a lot of young people right now really excited. Because here's somebody that they can actually understand, who has a coherent, cogent, rational message, who talks about policy, who talks about changing conditions, not what's wrong with the other person, right? She does talk about what's wrong with the other person, but that's not all she does. And that's all that Trump does. So it'll be interesting to see this move forward. And I wanted to share with you guys, even with the week and everything, that this was
I'm excited to see them debate if he doesn't back out.
Oh, he's totally backing out. Oh, he is running scared right now. He's running scared. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
She won't put up with it, and a lot of the insults he probably has for her would get him in trouble.
Oh, God, yeah. See, that's the thing, right? There's all kinds of... anyway, it's good stuff. I believe we have reason to hope again.
Yes.
And I can't think of a more positive message to deliver to you guys. That's what I wanted to get on the mic and share with all this long-winded stuff I go over. Thank you very much for coming around and listening to us babble on.
Yes.
Here is our critical thinking, logical fallacy of the week. And while my wife is finding that, I'm going to tell you guys that I don't have a podcast for you tomorrow because my week was not my own. I was not here to edit my podcast, and I'm not going to spend the rest of this night doing that. So I've got a couple podcasts in the can, but they're going to wait till next week. So you will have a critical Q&A show from me on Sunday, and Tony should be back so that we do a straight up and vertical this week on Monday. Okay, so don't look for a podcast tomorrow, but watch live critical Q&A right here, 1 o'clock Denver time on Sunday.
All right. This is kind of funny. Your bias is the pessimism bias. You overestimate the likelihood of negative outcomes.
Did you pull that out?
Just randomly, yeah.
Because that's exactly what I was describing.
Mm-hmm. Pessimism is often a defense mechanism against disappointment. Perhaps the worst aspect of pessimism is that even if something good happens, you'll probably feel pessimistic about it anyway.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know anything about that.
No, of course she wouldn't. All right, guys. Thanks for coming around and listening to us Babylon. We really appreciate it. Love your support. Love your viewership. As always, I hope that, we had some fun observations for you this week and you got something out of this. And we'll see you soon.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.